Hello, dreamers. Welcome to my very first episode of my podcast. The name of this podcast is called Hello, Dreamers. So, hi there. Apparently, you're a dreamer and you're here to hang out. So, let me tell you about what this is to see if you would like to stay and whether you feel safe to stay and hang out. My name is Sophie, and I am a watercolorist. I have a business called Dream in Watercolor. You can check out my artwork at dreaminwatercolor.com. I have been an artist for the past 2 years, and I have tremendous amount of thoughts go through my head. This has been so exciting. It's been an adventure. So what I typically do is if I see people remotely interested or curious about my business, my art, my life, I have a very high tendency of oversharing against their will. And so this is my attempt to not only traumatize one person, but do a brain dump to all of y'all. So I am the patient zero, and you are all unqualified, involuntary therapist of mine. Yeah, that ought to make you super comfortable being here. But hang out a little bit more. I want to tell you about me. So Sophie is not the name was given to me. I chose that name. I am a what I call 1.5 generation immigrants. My parents are the first generation immigrants. They had an established life social structures back in China, and then they get to come here and do a very hard pivot to not only learn the language, but to familiarize what it means to live here now. While I still had to do the hard pivot, but as a kid, I was not indoctrinated by the society as much. I did not have very deep roots of what the understanding of how to run a life in China. I did a hard pivot and I was continually to be educated and indoctrinated here. So I consider myself mostly having American ideals and values, and it sometimes clash with my familial expectation a lot. But I do not feel that internal struggle as much. So I moved here when I was 12. I was here for part of middle school, high school, college. I got myself a doctoral degree in physical therapy, just like how my parents wanted. So if you're familiar, the Asian family will tell their kid, you can be whatever you want to be when you grow up. If it's a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer, and nothing else. They were very hesitant but lenient when I chose to become a design major, and that lasted for about a year or so before I changed my mind and switched to a health science profession. They were much relieved. It was not the MD level kind of relieved, but very much relieved from what my original choice was. So I have practiced physical therapy as a doctor of physical therapy for over 10 years, on and off, full time, part time. I have left a lot of my childhood of things that I consider as childish behind. I have tried to hide my urge to doodle for decades. I have tried to be a responsible person and not make bad life choices. Try to not mingle with childish people. who do cosplays and childish events like Renaissance Fair or Comic Cons. Those are very foreign to me for years and years. Never done them before because I'm a grown up now. Until I divorced 2 years ago, and I suddenly realized I have no one to stop me from doing anything. And my head and my life and my person just exploded into a full expression of everything I have ever wanted as a child. Turns out I have never went through the teenager years where I get to rebel, I get to be quirky and awkward, I get to be into things and find the people who I feel I belong to. I skipped all that because I was not given that option or space to even explore those options. So I skipped it straight into very serious adulting. And turns out, if you skip a step in life, it does not automatically just says, okay, she's not interested in this. What your life do is still have a big red exclamation mark on it and notify pop up and notify you once in a while, and you just keep ignoring it. At least I did until I'm 40. And so I'm going back doing all the check marks I probably would have done in my teens. I don't know how that will play out if I actually had the space to do that at the right age, but it's never too late. As it's as fun as it would have been, I imagine. And so my life is exploded into so much more fun, so much more chaos, and I'm living on the edge. I have I'm an artist now. Suddenly I own art business. Oh, did I mention I have two kids? Now I'm a single mother of two crazy kids. And so as you can tell, a lot goes through in my head and goes on in my life that I would really like to bounce idea off. And I do that to my friends and a lot of times strangers. So in this podcast, I want this to be a safe place to bounce ideas, to unload all the gazillion little thoughts in your head or my head and normalize a lot of things. One thing I would like to normalize is messiness. A phase of my life has been a highlight of my life. I'm extremely self-expressive. I'm very driven. I'm very happy with where I am. But I am a hot mess inside and outward. Inside, I'm juggling too much and everything is chaotic inside my head. Outwards, it's just chaos. I have a messy house. I have messy kids. We're messy together and we are totally okay with it. We have admitted that messiness is okay in this house as long as we have a date that we're gonna clean up and then reverse back to messiness few hours after we clean up, and we're okay with that. So I would like to normalize this amount of messiness for all of y'all. You're welcome. Another thing I would like to normalize is intrusive thoughts. I've been through my share of therapy, and I've been through my phase where I'm all about mindfulness and positive thinking, but I see a lot of people go through this struggle where they think they're not supposed to have nasty or negative or just mean thoughts about things, either towards themselves or towards the world. Otherwise, they're shameful, they're whiner, and they're self-haters. And I actually find interesting that my head is floating and bouncing around with thoughts. A lot of them are very negative, and some of them are just straight out weird. And I would like to normalize it. That's totally normal. You ought to have them and you self generate them. It's perfectly okay. Yeah. And another thing I would like to normalize, there's not a lot normalizing here, is fear and anxiety. Like I said, I am very happy where I am today in the past 2 years or last year or so. I have so much fun and I'm a different person. I have so much outward positive energy radiating from me doing what I do nowadays. But I have way more fear and anxiety now than I did when I was much more miserable and hopeless and just 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 sad. And so I honestly thinking that fear and anxiety is it should be normal, especially you're going to places in your life. And I feel like fear and anxiety actually help me to identify where my comfort zone is and help me to step outside my comfort zone, knowing where the line is. So it's totally okay. Other than normalizing some of the things that people don't like, I think most importantly is to recognize the aspect of all this is having courage and take actions. And it's okay to have all these anxiety and intrusive thoughts, messiness, but more importantly is to have courage and to be able to take actions in your life. And um, I hope this podcast finds some of you out there. You are just standing at the doorstep of something new, something more you, something that makes you feel more alive, and you are filled with self-doubt, you're filled with fear, anxiety, you're filled with a lot of messiness and baggage in your life. And I hope this podcast finds you and give you a little nudge to still step forward and take that action and be a little bit more courageous and make things happen for yourself. So this is me, and voila, I am at the end of this spiel of my podcast. And as a newbie, I totally forget to remind you that you ought to subscribe or whatever is that get in on whatever platform you're listening to this on so that you don't lose my podcast. And you're supposed to smack the like button if you're watching me on YouTube so that the algorithm will help my podcast to reach people like you. And basically, please interact with my content. It really helped to spread the word. I hope you're still here. I hope you are the right quirkiness to be able to enjoy this. And in the future episodes, I will dive into very interesting topics of quirky things that goes on in my head that deal with different aspects of life. And hopefully you resonate with some of these struggles and how funny they are. And I I wish you continue to be my unlicensed therapist and share with me whether this sounds normal or if I need real help. And I hope you stay in my podcast voluntarily so that we can have a safe space for these conversations. All right, keep dreaming, and I'll see you in the next episode. Stay tuned.